You know, oftentimes here at Close Up Television and Radio, we have an opportunity to meet some extraordinary people who are doing incredible things to make our world a better place. Case in point, our travels here to Northern California to the town of Pico, which is about an hour or so north of the capital city of Sacramento. We're here to see Debbie Pico. Now, I've had an opportunity to chat with Debbie on Close Up Radio. We had an extraordinary conversation, so I wanted to come here to Northern California to check out what she does, to see it actually up close and personal. She's a healer, she's a shaman, she's an intuitive, and she's extraordinary at what she does because she works with clients, people who are seeking out guidance, help, support, understanding, to be listened to be heard and cared for. People who are dealing with a lot of different issues in their lives, like we all do. Nothing is perfect. So what she does is she customizes different plans and methodologies, techniques that help people find the true essence of who they are, once again, their purpose and their passion, and to live authentically. It's extraordinary work, and we're excited to learn more about it on this episode of Close Up Television. Debbie, so good to see you again, and thanks for having us come out to Northern California. Absolutely beautiful here in this area, the greater Sacramento area, Pico. It's really, really nice, and so befitting for what you do. It just has a certain vibe. Mm-hmm. And we had an opportunity to chat on the radio, which was really wonderful. The conversation was just so automatic and effortless that I said, let's hop on that plane and get to California and meet Debbie in person and dig a little deeper into the extraordinary work that you do. And I always like to find out what drives people, what's sort of behind the veil, if there's any veil at all. What inspires people? What makes them tick? What are some of the things in their own life's journey that point them in the direction of the work that they end up doing in their life, work that speaks to them and work that they love? For you on your life's journey, what are some of those things that inspired you to do this incredible work?
Early on, I had a very keen sense. Extremely intuitive child, very sensitive to many different inputs, outputs, whatever. I just was extremely sensitive. And I think the biggest part was as I would see people, and some people were like extremely happy and just really for no reason. And then other people were extremely miserable for what it seemed to be no reason. So it just intrigued me, the way the mind works. And I could sit here and talk about different situations that I went through as a child. And, I did go through some abuse and other things. And it really made me jump into the mind work that I do. And understanding consciousness. I mean, I tried to find it on the internet. It just is nowhere. And so I thought, okay, I need to dive deep into this because I know that consciousness is a big driving force in our life. Mm-hmm. And I just never realized how deep until I really got into this work and really doing what I love to do now.
How do you describe the work for somebody that's watching, saying, okay, you got my attention, this sounds interesting, but what is it that she actually does? Tell us about it in the best way you can sort of in layman's terms lay it out for us.
I work with the subconscious. We all have our conscious thoughts, and then our subconscious is all those little thoughts that we necessarily don't control. They pop into our brain, we don't know why they're there, or, and a lot of times it also has to do with shadow work or just understanding where all those little voices come in your head. And that's really the groundwork of what I do, is getting to the subconscious and why it's taking control of your life in the way that it has. It can go many different directions, and it can be positive, it can be negative, and most often it's negative. And that's what I try and help people understand, that it doesn't have to be that way.
You're a multi-dimensional intuitive. Tell us what that means.
Being multidimensional means that I don't just work in this realm. Mm-hmm. I work in many different realms. And the more that you do this work, spiritual work, you find connections that you can connect with, whether they're angels or gods or goddesses. I actually work in the dragon realm, and I also work in the fairy realm. And most often people have judgment about that. And I'm here to tell you that as a shaman, I've been trained as a shaman, that when you start experiencing new realms, different realms, your life opens up in many, many, many miraculous ways.
So how were you first introduced? Were you dealing with these various things in your life, seeking out sort of the guidance yourself, came across it, and it hit you in a very deep way that you wanted to then pursue it and help facilitate that for others? Was it something where you walk the walk, talk the talk, you've experienced it yourself first?
I didn't. I was somewhat in a bad place. I think when I first started, I think we all kind of get to that place of not knowing who we are, why we're here. I was going through all of that, and I felt like at a very young age that I had a higher purpose, and I just really didn't know how to get it. How to go about it,
Right.
just
how do we explain
how
this?
to explain it. It's just a feeling. And I knew in my heart, in my soul, that I was meant for something bigger. And that's really was my driving force.
One of the things that fascinates me too, and you hear a lot about it, maybe sometimes people aren't too sure of the definition of it, is shamanism. Tell us about that. You're a shaman. What is it, and how does it work in the work that you do, Debbie?
Shamanism is very ancient. It's in every culture. You can find it anywhere. The first shamans, of course, are incredible, but every indigenous people have their own shaman. And for me, it was a way to journey. It was a way to get into my subconscious in a way that I felt comfortable. And basically, it's just deep meditation. It takes meditation to your next level. And what I do with people is I help guide them. I'm just a guide. I'm here to help facilitate the process. But you are actually the one going through the process. It's not me. I'm just facilitate it.
You're sort of the conduit, right?
Yeah.
There's an energy that's sort of flowing through you,
Right.
that you tap into, that allows you to be able to do the work.
Correct.
Which is quite incredible, exceptional,
Yeah.
isn't it?
Yeah, it's pretty amazing stuff. And when when things start happening in your life where there's just no logical explanation, then you know that everything you're doing is not only true to you, but it can happen to anybody.
That's incredible. That's really absolutely amazing. There's a way, I guess, we can really heal our bodies naturally, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Usually when we're hurting, mind, body, and spirit, we run to other aids, other things, whether it's medicine, a pill, some people it's alcohol, food, gambling, addictions. That temporarily numb it, but then when that numbing agent wears off, things are 10 times worse.
Yeah.
But there are ways to heal naturally, right? Tell us about the
Yeah.
ability the body has to do that, and we need to tap into that.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm a big proponent of dealing with the emotional side because emotion is what drives us. Emotion. It is emotional motion, basically.
Yeah.
And so when you're able to actually go into a root cause, which on the you can't do it logically. It's not going to happen. You have to do it spiritually. You have to do it with the right side of your brain. You can't use the left side of the brain because it doesn't work.
Right.
And that's usually why healing doesn't work, is because people try and put logic into it, and that's not how it works.
Yeah.
And so what I do is I get to the root cause, and sometimes that can take one session, sometimes it takes 6 months worth of sessions. But that's my driving force, is the root cause, that's what I'm getting at, is the root cause.
What do you look for when you are getting to the root cause, is there something that when you're working with your client that happens to them that you almost can feel, can sense when you've tapped? It's almost like mining for oil, and you've reached the oil. You know, there's the oil.
Yeah.
Do you get some sort of a sensation like, I think we've reached source?
Yeah, well, I get it intuitively, and everything I do when I work with the subconscious is all done intuitively. But for one, I trust it, and for two, I believe it. And so those are two major factors. And when you're dealing with subconscious work, belief gets in the way. Because it comes from a logical place, and also identity, people's identities. And that's another thing I work with very deeply, is getting people out of that identity that they think of who they are, and realize that they are something much more than their identity.
A lot of times that identity is coming from an identity that other people have created for you.
Oh, absolutely.
Whether it's your employer, whether it's your family or friend, society as a whole.
Yeah.
You know, we're all keeping up with whoever. And because we're always watching what they're doing and sort of let people emulate what other people are doing, social media is big for that too.
Yeah.
People, following what other people are doing and not necessarily living their own life.
No.
And you have to be authentic, and you're missing the boat. You're missing out if you don't be you, because there's only one you, right?
Yeah. And you really have to. If you don't, you just become a shell, and it's bombarded on you every single day. And if you can't be in touch with who you really are, who your soul is, who your spirit is, then it's just not going to work for you. You're going to have struggles. You're going to, whenever you try and jump to the next level, you're going to be pulled. I mean, we live in the pendulum. It's like our goal is over here and we're over here, and we get kind of halfway there, and then we get sucked back. We get a little bit further, and then we get sucked back. And that's what I change.
Sometimes you have to go snip, right?
Yeah, you gotta, sometimes you
cut
just,
loose.
Yeah, you cut loose, or you just change the pattern. There's so many ingrained patterns within us, which is where identity comes in.
Yeah.
That we can never reach that goal. It's like it's this picture in the sky that we don't have confidence to get to. And that's really sad to me,
Right, exactly. Yeah, the world is pulling at us in so many different directions. And it's so fast-paced too.
Yes.
I often say that we are always going to next, which is great. But what about savoring what we just experienced?
What you just did.
Can we elongate that a little bit? That fabulous thing that we just accomplished, that we just did, that we just experienced. What's the point of always next if you don't get to revel in the experience of what you just did?
You're also you're going against force. You're trying to force it, and that doesn't work either. You have to be in flow in order for things to manifest. If you want to create your life, that's all well and good, because we're all creators. We can all create our own life. But when you're in resistance, or when you're trying to force it, it's not going to happen.
No.
You have to learn how to be in the flow. And in order to be in the flow, you have to get out of your left brain. So.
The ones that the area where it's like 2 + 2 is 4, and that's it.
Yeah.
There's no other.
Yeah, it's like I have to do this. This is next.
Check this box. This
person
box.
told me that I had to do this in order to get here, but that's not how it works.
So Debbie, this is an exciting part, because we're going to actually see you do one of your sessions. Nice to meet you. I am Jim.
Nice to meet you.
You look very
Barbara.
comfortable. Nice to meet you, Barbara. You look comfortable and at ease. And you've been coming for a while, right?
Yes.
Fantastic. So does she have some things that you want to work through with her that you're working with currently?
I've spoken with Barbara before, and today she wants to work on her overeating. So that's one thing that we're just going to touch on the surface, And yeah, we're going to get her to a place where she doesn't feel like she has to overeat in order to comfort herself.
So normally when a session begins, Debbie, how does it begin? Do you just sit down and chat with the person first? And what is the process like?
Yeah, we do an extensive consultation because I really want to get to know them as well as them know me. Because when you're doing the type of sessions that I do, I put the person into a deep state of relaxation or a deep meditation. Some people might call it a trance, other people might just call it a deep meditation. So in order to do that with people, in order for them to feel comfortable, I need to really have an extensive consultation first. You're feeling like the trigger that triggered you to overeat is no longer there.
No, it feels good right now.
Good, wonderful. That's where it needs to be. Okay, now we're just going to solidify that into your structure.
All right, Barbara looks like she's got a glow. She looks almost like she's levitating. You feel really good, Barbara, huh?
I feel great.
Wow.
Yeah, really great.
So what was happening? It really was amazing to see almost this change overcoming her in a beautiful way. I mean, she is glowing. She seems so relaxed. It's as if maybe there was a cleansing that was happening. What was actually happening with Barbara?
Yeah, what we do is we actually shift inside of her. There's certain structures, certain patterns that we all have. And what we want to do is we want to shift those out of negative patterns into positive patterns. And that's how we actually do it. We go in and talk to the subconscious. The subconscious doesn't really know. It doesn't know what it's doing. So when we put a new structure on the subconscious then picks that up as the new positive structure within her. And that's going to help her do what she needs to do with her overeating issues.
That's fantastic. Now, is this a sensation that will last for a while? Is she going to be on sort of this high for a while?
Yeah. It all really depends on the person and what they are actually trying to change. I do work with some clients for 6 months at a time. Because those are deeper issues that we want to go into. As far as surface layer issues like overeating, that sort of thing, this should be a permanent shift. And if anything, there may be other issues that may come up within the emotion of it. And at that point, then we can shift that again.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Feel like $1 million, huh?
I do.
So Barbara, how do you feel right now? You look like you are in a really peaceful place, very happy, very contented, and to have an opportunity to really witness what we just saw, this transformation, this amazing and beautiful transition before our eyes, was really something glorious. How do you feel right now?
Well, all those words, happy, relaxed, peaceful, they all describe how I am feeling right now. Very, very good. Yes.
So what are some of the things you've been dealing with that Debbie has been helping you with?
Stress and some grief for losses I've had.
Sure.
And guilt over that.
So food in a way has become the numbing agent, the source of comfort. Of course it provides pleasure. There's the tastes and the instant high from the food. What would be your go-to? Do you like sweets or do you like savory items?
I love like popcorn, chips, pizza.
The salty, savory.
Yes.
So you've sort of figured out a few things with Debbie.
Yes.
As she's worked with you. In terms of some of those triggers, like you said, that are causing this. Now, a session like what you just had looked like it was something, out of this world. You are left with some feelings now that are positive that you can take with you sort of the rest of the day, right?
Absolutely. I feel more confident in myself and what my choices will be. I feel more like I will be more aware instead of just mindlessly eating, that I'm going to be more attentive and aware. I just have this confidence now I didn't have before.
That's amazing. Really, truly is. So somebody's watching right now and they're thinking about maybe exploring some of these options with Debbie. and they're sort of on the edge. They're on the fence about doing it. Maybe they've tried a million other things, but nothing's really working. They're in that treadmill stuck place. What would you say to somebody like that as far as pursuing this with Debbie?
Well, I've been there, and I've tried many different things, like for losing weight, and it's always been about restricting or just eating this or just eating that. And it can work for a while, but long term it hasn't worked for me. And I've discovered with Debbie that it is an inside job, that emotions have an awful lot to do with the amount or what you eat.
Yeah.
And as she's healing the grief and the anxiety, the stress, you know, I find myself less interested in eating the processed foods and an overabundance of food.
I know this is a tough question. It is for me too. You and I are kindred spirits on a lot of levels, as we talked about on the radio series. Overall, the state of the world today, it seems like we're in a tough spot. There's a lot of darkness out there, a lot of anger out there, a lot of frustration, and people, helplessness. People are just going along and reacting, overreacting, judging, pulling back, whatever it may be. For you, as an expert dealing with people who are going through a lot of different things in their lives, what do you see as the state of the world today? And I know it hits you personally as well.
You know, I have a hard time even answering that right now because it's so extensive that just even a 5-minute answer wouldn't even cover it.
But we have a lot of work to do.
We have a lot of work to do, but I also want to offer hope because there is tons of hope.
Yeah.
And we just have to understand where it is, because the opposite of fear is hope. So if you swing your pendulum from fear, you're going to have hope. And that's really where my job comes in, because that's what I want to do, is offer hope to people, because there's hope for everybody. Anybody can heal. Some people are very, very far gone, and that, you know, that's always a touchy situation. But if you haven't gone too far off the deep end, right. You can definitely come back and heal and live a joyful life and take the steps necessary to get you where you need to be.
You know, one of the things that you say often is we have to take back our lost power. And what happens? How do we get derailed? How does our power get taken away from us? Is it where maybe we didn't realize we ever had the power? We never gave ourselves the credit, the self-worth, the belief. We didn't have the belief system that we have the power. Or is it also that other people come in and they snatch that power away from us and we don't know how to regain it? Or is it all of those things?
That's one thing I do a lot with, actually I do with just about every client, is teaching them how to take back their power. And our power has been lost for not only our era, but eras for millennia. I mean, it's been going on for years and years. And so taking back your power, it's a journey. It's just a mind journey, and you go deep within, and I can teach anybody how to do it.
There's the other thing too, as far as mastering our potential, which sounds really, really cool. Like we have the potential, but we just don't know how to really focus it, fine tune it, tweak it, and have it work for us.
Right.
How do we, you know, Jim Master is asking how we master our potential. How do we do that?
Well, I like to say master of possibilities.
I like that.
Yeah, because we all have potential, and that's a given. You know, we're all more than what we ever thought we were. So mastering possibilities means that you're mastering more of the mundane life. And that's how we manifest, is we're mastering possibilities in order to manifest our true potential. And that's how I like to look at it, because it's all in steps. You know, you take one step at a time and you get there. And that's really what brings you to the master of your life.
You know, you hear a lot about purpose and passion. A lot of people are using those two words a lot, they're like in vogue. But for you, let's define purpose and passion. And do they always go hand in hand? Are they interlinked?
Purpose and passion, they usually are linked for sure. As far as them being the same, no. I mean, you could do many different things. The one thing I always struggled with is sort of getting to this point was believing everybody's else opinion as far as how to get there. And I'm doing the same thing. I'm going out there, I'm putting myself out there, and it is my opinion, yes. But there is also this purpose and this passion that comes out of me like there's no tomorrow, you know. And that's really where you find it, it's again a feeling. It's not a do A, B, C and you'll get to your purpose.
Right.
It's all about the feeling.
You also say we are the creators of our own lives. Tell us about that.
I try and get people to understand that they can create anything they want. And, you know, you hear it when you're a kid, you know, your mom and dad, if you've got good parents,
right,
will tell you, you can be anything you want to be. And I take that premise and I apply that as an adult and say, well, you can be anything you want to be. It just takes the necessary steps to get there.
One of the things that I know is very important to you is something called reverse consciousness. Now, to me, reverse consciousness would mean you're going to bed and you're sleeping. You're shutting the consciousness off, and that's it. You're reversing it. But there's a lot more involved than that. Tell us.
Yes. That's really what I see my future going, because consciousness is a topic that most people just have no idea. I mean, they know they have conscious thoughts, but besides that, they really don't know what consciousness is or how to control it or why it even exists. And for me, consciousness is more real than the real life, what you would call real life or this reality. What I mean by reversing consciousness is reversing your beliefs. And in order to do that, you actually go into the future and you create that perfect life of what you want. And most people think that they're in the now and this is where I have to be. But if you don't create a future, that future will never be. Mm-hmm. You have to actually create it. And cause is actually in the future, it's not in the now. So when you make something happen in the future through visions or through however you want to do it, there's many different ways. I do it through vision. You actually bring that future to you. And that is backwards thinking from anybody, because they think if I just work hard now, I'm going to get what I want in the future without even creating that future first. So what I'm saying when I say reverse consciousness is you have to actually create your future first, mm-hmm. and then you take the steps necessary in order to get to that future.
See, that's what's important, because a lot of times we think just the working will automatically lead to it, but that doesn't always, unfortunately, it's not the way it always works, right?
No, because whatever you put your attention on is going to grow. Mm. And so your intention, you have an intention of getting to this goal, but your intention or attention is right here and now, and basically you're just trying to figure out the steps in order to get there. So it's not a flow. You need to, It's a double quantum wave between us right now and our future selves. So in order to create that future self and bring in that quantum wave so we can blend those two together, and then is when you pull your future to you.
With the universe being so fluid, how do we get what we want in such a fluid universe?
Well, that's just it. You have to create it. And if you don't create it, then basically it's at the universe's hands.
And it's running the show.
And it's running the show. So if you want to run the show, if you want to create your own life, then this is how you have to do it. Otherwise, you'll start spinning your wheels, and you'll just keep going round and round and round. And the universe is just going to keep giving you what it always has gotten you. And whether that's good or bad, I don't know.
Right.
Everybody's in a different spot. But that means that the universe is in control, not you. Personally, I like to be in control.
Yeah, and more advantages.
Yeah.
You mentioned a bit about mastering consciousness earlier, but you truly believe it's the key to survival.
I do. It's not the key to us individual as a survivor, but us as a planet. We have to dive deeper into consciousness because it's really the only way out. It has to be, you talked about the world today. It's really the only way out because right now we're going down a spiral and we're getting the exact same thing. And it's not just individual consciousness, but it's group consciousness.
Yeah, destructive patterns.
And destructive patterns. And when you get group consciousness like that together, it actually takes on a life of its own. And I do this individually, but on a grand scale, it does the exact same thing. It keeps creating and it keeps creating, and that's why they always say history repeats itself. Well, because it does, unless you change it. So when you are able to change it on an individual level, you can start changing it on a group conscious creation. And that's really where I would love to get people to realize and to understand.
You have a little toolbox of things you can pull from. Tell us about some of the tools you use in your healing.
That again can vary. I do a lot of just physical modalities as well. I don't strictly just work with consciousness. I also am a sound practitioner, and sound is an amazing thing, sound and vibration. I also work with ruins, and they're the energy of creation itself. So I work with a lot of vibrational tools, but I can do any or all of those things in any given session.
There's an incredible array of things too that come out of your energy sessions. Power of healing disease and a variety of different things. Let's talk about some of that.
Yeah, I believe that anybody can heal, and that's any disease. Again, that's me talking. But, when you start seeing miracles happen, you start believing real quick.
Yeah.
And that's really just what it comes down to. If you believe it can be fixed, then it can. If you are total left brain and you have to have proof and you have to have all the scientists backing it up, you'll just get what you get. Yeah. It just is, because it's all done by random chance. And personally, like I said, I like to take control.
It's like a full regeneration of our energy bodies right?
Yes, absolutely. We actually have 33 layers of our energy body. Yeah, and so we are little massive computers running around, and that's what keeps us contained, is our energy bodies. So when your energy body is working like it's supposed to, you're going to be healthy, you're going to be happy, you're going to be doing your purpose, you're going to be passionate, you're going to find joy, and just all the things that we all want, right?
Discreate negative patterns and habit?
Yes, we must discreate. And that's a huge problem in the world today, because everybody tries to create something, but yet they're not discreating. Pure awareness itself, that's what we're all trying to get back to, right? It's just pure awareness. That's like the first thing that comes into the universe is pure awareness. And that only does three things. It creates, it experiences, and it discreates. And right now we are stuck in a loop of creation and experiencing, and nobody is discreating anything. And so here we are.
Also removing all curses and negative entities.
That can take on a life of its own again. You can pick up entities, or you can create them inside of your body. And that's something that goes quite a bit deeper into this conversation. But yeah, you can actually create your own demon inside of you, and it will take on a life of its own.
Releasing guilt is also important, isn't it?
Yes, it is. All the emotions, guilt, anger, frustration, apathy, shame. Shame is actually a huge one that most people would never even admit to, or even know that they carry it with them.
Yeah.
Most of it's done at childhood. And so they don't even realize that it's a part of their life that's actually driving their life.
What about over-prepared manifestations? Can we have too many things we're trying to manifest? We have to be all, do all, see all, taste all, live all at the same time?
Oh yeah, you get in the way. Too much thought into anything, so you're not relying on faith or belief. You're relying on logic and overthinking, and that cycle is really hard to get out of, but you can do it.
So how do we let go and get back to flow?
Well, then you have to realize that you're, again, much more than you are, but also that you are not only light, but you're light and dark combination. So when you realize that you have certain aspects in you and you're able to face them and understand them, then all of a sudden you start flowing. But if you try and just push it away and pretend like it doesn't exist, you're not going to get anywhere.
So what is flow?
Flow is when things just happen. You're like, those synchronicities that you're like, oh wow, how did that happen? Or it just happens. And that's when magic happens. Because when you're in flow, the world turns magical. And that's a beautiful thing.
There's an ending prayer that you have, isn't there, that you wanted to share with us?
Yes. And it has to do, I'm not going to say the prayer itself, but it has to do with after you're healing and after you're done healing, you must reconnect it back into the matrix. And so when I work with people and their emotion, we shift that emotion and then we reconnect it back into the matrix of not only your body, but also the universe. So you're able to move forward without the restriction or the resistance that you once had.
Debbie, you're obviously very in tune with what you do, and you do beautiful work, and obviously it comes from the essence and the spirit of who you are, your heart and soul, or you wouldn't be doing the work that you do and do so beautifully. What are some of those blessings and joys in your life that continue to forge you on to want to do this work?
I've always been extremely compassionate, and to see the world the way it is right now it's just heartbreaking. And I don't understand it, I guess. I think it's probably the biggest part of it. I mean, people go through their daily lives and I don't know how they do it. I just don't. I look at, I don't watch the news. I very rarely watch TV.
There's a lot of anger out there.
Yeah, I can't do it. I can't watch it. I can't
towards
see
each
it.
other.
Yeah, and so
because it's not you.
It's not me.
You can't plug into that.
No, I cannot plug into it. it's too extremely difficult for me.
Yeah, I'm the same way.
So for people like us, we need an outlet, we need connection between each other. And that's really why I searched it out, because I needed people like me. And because it's not in the mundane world, it's in this world.
Overall, how do you describe what you do? How do you put it into words?
I would say I am a shaman who shifts consciousness. And even though some people were like, well, why do you have to shift consciousness? I do it because the world needs to be healed. And it's extremely easy to do. But nobody understands it.
It's really amazing work that you're doing, and you're helping people realize, again, the true essence of who they are, which I think is fantastic. Thanks for having us come. This was really terrific. I'm glad we did the radio show, but I'm really happy that we came across the country to see you here and in your atmosphere and your element. Really a pleasure, and again, continued blessing and joy in your life as you're being that conduit of this wonderful healing. and this positivity and this energy for the good of others. It was really a pleasure, Debbie.
Thank you, Jim. I really appreciate it.
My pleasure as well. So as we were saying at the beginning of this episode of Close-Up Television, oftentimes we get a chance to and have a wonderful luxury of meeting people who are doing great things to make our world a better place. And Debbie Pico certainly fits the bill. She's caring, she's affable, she's somebody who truly cares about her clients and their needs. And she creates these wonderful ways to reach them deeply. So she provides this safe space so they can emote, they can share what's troubling them, and they're on that search for healing. She helps get them there as well. She's been doing this for a long time. She's very well schooled and studied in it. She's always enhancing her techniques as well and learning more and more about the incredible work that she does. And she has so many satisfied clients, which is true test of what she does. It was also very cool to see Barbara, who came in to have an opportunity to express her passion for working with Debbie and also experience that transformation, that transition, dealing with overeating right before our eyes. And also I had an opportunity to enjoy some meditation and other techniques laying down on the table, talking about some sleepless nights and things of that nature. Really a great visit. It was a pleasure coming here to see Debbie Pico. Now, if you would like to experience some of this yourself, we really highly recommend you contact her by going to her website, debbiepico.com. An amazing experience in Northern California. In Chico, California, just north of Sacramento. I'm Jim Masters, Close-Up Television and Radio.